All right. I think maybe we'll just go ahead and get started. We're just about 2 minutes over. So
Yep.
I just want to thank everyone for registering for our webinar, Modern Tools for Managing Urban Parks. This is one of many of our webinars that we're trying to offer, especially through these times that people are really engaging online. Enriching all of their education on different resource platforms. And, we want to continue to be a resource for you here at Planet Geo. So if you ever see any other topics that you really see that would be valuable for yourself and your industry and help you move forward professionally, feel free to reach out to us anytime. My name is Elizabeth Schulte. I am the Director of Marketing here at Planet Geo. And so you can always reach out to me anytime, and I will be moderating today's webinar. Ian Hanno, here, our founder and CEO, will be presenting. And so I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. We will be recording all of these webinars. So if you want to stream them at a later time, or you get distracted, or things pull you away, they will be recorded, and they're all available on planetgeo.com for live streaming anytime. You can also acquire CEUs, and we're starting a new practice that we will have 20 questions for streamed webinars that you can get one ISA CEU for. After answering those questions. And then you will see that there is a chat feature in here. So feel free to put any chats or Q&A in here at any time, and I will be fielding these as Ian goes through the discussion. So I think without any more time, I think we'll go ahead and head into it. Ian?
Okay, great. You can hear me all right?
Perfect.
Yep. All right. Well, I think interesting start as we transition from purely urban forestry and into the parks product, as we're going to emphasize today. You talked about CEUs, but that is arborist CEUs. I'm sure there are educational credentials that we should be looking into for. It could be LEED certification. It could be certified playground safety inspector. Those sorts of things. So Elizabeth, that's probably something for us to look into in the future.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. As Elizabeth said, my name is Ian Hanno, CEO and founder at Planet Geo. I'm in Denver, Colorado area. I hope you are healthy and safe and staying sane and productive and all those good things. I'm not going to use words like uncertain or chaos or anything of that nature. So we'll just jump into it. If you're not familiar with Planet Geo, we have basically two divisions, if you will, of the company. We have the SaaS side, so the software as a service, and then we have our services, consulting services. So we're mostly going to focus on the software as a service today, but really the two go hand in hand. We're very proud to use our software for a lot of our field work, reporting, management plans, things of that nature. A lot of our geospatial services also rely on our software. So just to give a little more broad introduction, our purpose and impact, this is really why we come to work every day. We are not just subject matter experts in green infrastructure and technology, but we are really just avid learners and adopters and engaging clients and such in anything having to do with trees in our cities, trees in parks, various types of innovations that we've been able to develop and roll out. And we do all of that really for urban planning and community development purposes, as well as the environmental benefits, sustainability programs, goals, initiatives, where trees, parks, green infrastructure, and such all take part and have a role. We just about 30 employees around the United States. Like I said, our headquarters is just outside of Denver. We've been around since 2012, and hundreds of clients across the country, also now internationally in the last couple of years. So just a quick background on that. On the software side, we do have an international partner program. So we have 8 partners now across the globe, and this has been a really exciting growing market for us. About a third of our sales last year, new software clients came from our international partners, which is pretty exciting. a lot of effort, in particular in the UK and Australia. If you're not familiar with our software suite, there are 4 products. We just recently launched TreePlotter Jobs, and it's actually a free SaaS application for now through November as part of our COVID-19 response. Really is to help small businesses with that product. We've just made it completely free for several months. Today we're going to mostly focus on TreePlotter Parks. So I'll just skip to that in just a second. One big important thing from a technology standpoint, all of our products are mobile friendly, mobile ready. They are GIS based, hosted in the Amazon cloud with great security, very well supported, and all of our software are highly configurable. And I'll give you lots of examples of that. Just a quick look at some of the clients and sort of markets is with TreePlotter Inventory, which is our flagship product. It has been used. We have close to 300 clients roughly around the world, but as you see, government, nonprofit, university campuses, as well as private industry, whether that's tree care or consultants and such. So it's a really diverse user base because the platform itself is essentially a mobile GIS for data collection, data management, reports, and what I'm going to tell the story of is how we've transitioned into parks, park management, park asset software today. And just as I'll back up, just going to do maybe 15 to 20 minutes in this PowerPoint, and then we'll go into a live demonstration. So one of the nice ways that we've been able to engage with clients and get a lot of feedback over the years, there's a website and I guess a company, a third-party service called Capterra. So we have around 75 reviews that have been done. They're not all 5 out of 5 like the one on screen, of course, but we're very proud that the average is about 4.5 out of 5, and I think it's a 4.9 out of 5 rating on customer service. So you really get a lot of hand-holding and really support round the clock from us. If you're not familiar with our flagship product, TreePlotter Inventory, it is on the same platform, the same code base as TreePlotter Parks. And you actually get all of that in one product if you want, which means you have a full, complete web-based enterprise tree inventory asset management system, as well as the full park asset side. As I said, the markets for this product are really diverse, so governments to private industry. We use this product ourselves in-house for a lot of our data collection, well, all of our data collection. That's also helped us to, refine the product as well as with, user feedback. There are several bolt-on or add-on modules to TreePlotter Inventory. Many of those also come if you choose to have TreePlotter Parks, where you can add on these different modules as well. We're not going to go into those in much detail today. So TreePlotter Parks, as I said, very similar platform and technology as our flagship TreePlotter Inventory, and allows you to map and collect data. You can upload existing park data that you have into the system, and then customize the inspections, generate work schedules, maintenance schedules. There's very dynamic reporting. I'll talk a little bit about the reports and show some different examples. And when I say dynamic, I mean that the way you configure and customize TreePlotter Parks follows through or carries through to how your reports are generated. So it's really a very dynamic system. You can tailor the types of work that you're doing, the types of inspections, and then the reports will simply just follow that and represent the information that you want. As with all of our products, you own the data. You can export, save your data anytime, and of course our setup and deployment process includes training, implementation, and configuration, and then just support over time. So if you haven't heard of or watched Simon Sinek, I'm a pretty big fan. Our company, we've watched lots of his videos even together as exercises. He talks about the why, and I just wanted to maybe pull back a step and talk about why does PlanetGeo and the TreePlotter platform have a parks software. So first thing, fairly obvious, is, at least to us, clients have asked for it. So we were already building it, which was great, but we've seen a sort of an increase over time, I guess, when we're mapping and managing trees as assets in cities and communities. The obvious sort of halo market for us was to expand into parks. There are already trees in parks. This creates sort of an intersection or nexus as well for our other services, our consulting groups. So our tree inventory arborists and our GIS team, for example, can obviously focus on park data collection, which we do pretty often. We felt there was a really good product fit for us and a market opportunity. As we looked at other products around, there's certainly plenty in the asset management space, looking at life cycle costs and depreciation and those types of things. I think we wanted to stick with what we're really good at. We're really good with trees. Trees are in parks. We're pretty darn good with parks as well. So there's some products that might be a little bit different in terms of how they approach this. We're not getting into like reservation systems for reserving usage within parks, things like that. We're focused on the mapping, the visualization, the work tracking, inspections, reporting, things like that. So hopefully a fairly user-friendly set of software, but also very robust and scalable. I sort of touched on this already, but when we're working with our clients, a lot of those are already in sustainability or in planning or in maybe stormwater management, or they're, of course, parks and rec. So we really saw this overlap and this intersection between our traditional urban forestry and arboriculture experience and where we can go with parks. And the types of benefits that they are looking for, and in terms of their needs, they mimic what we've already been doing for years, which is providing software that allows you on phones, tablets, computers to have access to your data from anywhere and to be able to visualize that information in a variety of ways. I think we're pretty good at that. We can also, of course, you have to track the maintenance you're doing, reduce your risks and liabilities, really be able to present the information from a budget and a planning standpoint. Where are we spending our time? Where should we be spending our time? All of those great things. So we've already been doing those. It was a natural segue into parks. And the last one is the obvious one. You pretty much don't get a job at Planet Geo, even if you're writing code, without saying that you really like trees, nature, the environment, parks, and what parks provide to us. Nowadays, I mean, in so many different ways, between access to parks, equity for parks in urban areas. If nothing else, this COVID-19 situation has certainly shown us that access to open space parks is just more important than ever before. So those are things I'm sure all of you here know. But that's our why. That's why this is important to us. Well, I'll transition here to a bit more product information. This is all online. You can look at pricing, and we came up with 3 different levels or product levels for tree plotter parks. I'm not going to go in great detail here, but basically you'll see this slide and then the next one, how we've scaled up the application from a base level to a premium level. We looked at the base level as a really good tool for smaller communities to map and track their assets, to still customize their inspection forms and have reports. But generally that they don't need to do full-on work orders and service request tracking, track all the costs to what they're doing. If you want, you can go up to the next level. One of the big differences between the different levels is the number of mapping layers that you get in the system. So each layer, let's call it parks, park amenities, park playgrounds, you might have irrigation, you could have trails or signage, whatever it might be. Those asset types, the more of those layers you want and the more specific you want to be about the inspections and the work tracking that you're doing, then you can move along the scale to complete or premium. So those come with more layers and more customization, if you will. As with all of our products, it's unlimited users. We don't charge per user. So that's really nice. Your organization can grow and scale without having huge changes in cost. Let's see what else. With the premium version, we have an API to talk between Tree Plotter and other systems, something we're very proud of. We put a lot of time into for the last few years. So in terms of technology, that's a great way to integrate and have data share between, say, another asset management system and then tree plotter inventory or tree plotter parks as your forestry and park application. Well, I'll move on. Here's just another way to look at it. So this is screenshots of the legend in the software where you can color code and choose what layer in the map you want to be looking at. So on the left, we have an example of base. It comes with parks, park amenities, trees, and playgrounds. So that's a really, really good package for park and rec organizations, smaller communities. We go to complete, and you'll notice now we have work orders. We also have service requests. That comes with a module that for years we've just called work order management. There's a lot of cost tracking that comes with that, additional reports, custom drop-downs for various service requests or the inquiries you're getting, and then the work that you're scheduling. Now, if we go to premium, here you'll see there are multiple map layers. They each have their own custom attributes. They can each have their own custom inspection forms. So hopefully that kind of helps to, as at least a high level of how we differentiate the products, the product levels. So just a few more things to kind of give you a hopefully a well-rounded introduction to the system, and then again we'll go through some live examples. On the left here we have, this is a client near Melbourne, Australia, where they have what they call maintenance areas. And so you'll see on the left where it says details, all those data fields, and then the drop downs that you have there, or text boxes and such. So that's exactly what they wanted. We create the database or work with them to create the database, and then there it is. On the right is an interface we use for tracking costs, and I'll just give the simple version of this. At the top, think of it as costs related to the work order, which might have multiple tasks within it, and at the bottom are those individual tasks. So it really gives you flexibility. We were working with a client, Davis, California, a couple years ago on really what their requirements were and how we wanted to create this. So it allows you to balance entry of costs either at the work order overall. Maybe you have fixed fees for construction or for materials or something like that, and then you might have individual costs, either person hours, or you might have other fixed costs. So it tabulates that for you in a fairly streamlined interface. Okay, in terms of databases, I sort of covered most of this. I think at the top left here we have the different map layers that I showed you and mentioned. We have our what we call work records. Those have a category and a task. And if you look at the bottom middle, the categories are the bolded items. So you could have something, this is kind of custom, but maybe you have cleaning operations, especially right now with our pandemic situation. You might have cleaning categories of work. You'd have maintenance type of work. You could have special events. So we call these categories. And then within those, there are individual tasks. So the task is what you'd actually assign to somebody for maintenance work, inspections, that sort of thing. You'll see on the reports, which is the next few slides, how easy it is to add those work tasks and then how they flow through to the reports. At the top right, we have some data. These are called lookup tables, and they allow you to basically say to click on those, open up the table, and you can choose how to customize this part of the database. So in this case, these are different crews that you would assign work to and how you do that. It looks like there are some questions. I just saw it blink in the chat. So Elizabeth, I'll move on. Maybe what we'll do, if this works, I could finish the slides in the next 5 to 10 minutes, and then we could answer questions for a while before we go to the live demo. Does that sound good?
We just have some chats going on, so we don't have any specific questions yet at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, don't be shy. Use either the Q&A or the chat window. So reports on the left, this is a screenshot of the hub menu, we call it, where you can expand and contract different types of functionality, in this case, the reports. So I think what's important to understand is that it's a very data-driven system. What you put in is what you can get back out. So that can be tabular lists, pie charts, bar charts. It can be a dashboard. You'll see the little pin in blue. We allow you to pin certain charts to a dashboard to save those in that area. We also have, I'll show you on the next slide, individual asset reports. So if you want all the information and all the history about one asset, you can do that. If you want to loop through all the inspections most recent for a particular type of asset, you can also do that. So there's really a slew of reports from kind of individual assets to groups of assets to summary level work reporting and such. So here's an example. This is one individual asset. It is a playground. And at the bottom, it shows the history of the work, either what's active in the system and that needs to be done, or what's already been completed and has been archived. And then below that, the inspection information. And again, these are custom sections, if you will, of the inspection. All of our reports are also web-based, and that means that you can, if you want to create a PDF from it, you can. If you don't want to, you can simply share the URL to the report. So this next example, it's a very long URL, but you see there at the top, you could embed that into a report. You could share that on an email or other means, but it's really a handy way to share the information in more interactive method rather than just simply a PDF. So what this is showing is the status of the work at the top left, what's been scheduled, unassigned, in progress, complete. If we look at the bottom left here, we have the different types of tasks that are in the system and similar information off to the right. And you can choose what you want for charts, tables, that sort of thing. But again, that's summary level. So hopefully that just gives you a quick glimpse into the types of reports that are in the system and the capabilities. With inspection forms, so the way this works is you have an inspection form for any layer that's in the map. So that could be trees, it could be the park itself, it could be park amenities, so benches, signs, things like that, and basically anything, irrigation, you name it. So this is an example from Orlando, Florida, one of our new clients. On the left, we have basically these sections of their park inspections. So this is just a mock example. One of the interesting things is that, again, these are associated with the park itself, as you can see on the right there in the other form. But one of the take-homes is that the way that this one is set up is a numeric system. So we've tried to be adaptable and flexible to what different clients need. And in this case, not just the sections that they have, but they're actually using a numeric system. So if there is I believe it's out of a 5 score. So here you'll see on the bottom left, if it's below a 3.5 out of 5, it requires a comment. So that's just how they've chosen to do that. Now let me go to the next one as a different example. So now rather than a numeric 0 through 5, we have a pass, fail, or NA system. And so you can choose that for parks versus playgrounds versus park amenities or however you want in the system. And the other example this one shows on the bottom right is there's, in this case, 3 records have been submitted for inspections. And you have a lot of control over what columns you want to see. Was a work order required? Yes, no. Were there photos associated? Who did the inspection on what date? Those types of things. But again, the sections, the data fields and whatnot, whether it's numeric or otherwise, is all chosen by the client. We have templates, of course, that we allow clients to use. They could toss the template out and start from scratch if they want to. I'm wrapping up here from the PowerPoint. We certainly have a roadmap for the software, the direction that we want to head. So these are some of the sort of evolving features, I guess. We already have some components of many of these already in place, actually. One thing we've been driving towards is a level of service as a score per park. So this would be things like safety, access, lighting, ADA compliance, etc. And so looking at this as maybe a 0 through 10 score and having 10 different criteria that go into looking at the level of service that is at that park. One thing we haven't done that we'd like to move towards is looking at how that changes over time. So as you're making improvements, keeping up with maintenance and such, maybe improving accessibility or lighting or parking, that level of service score can increase over time. And therefore should increase the assets as well. The next one, replacement cost modeling, looks at how, based on the condition of the amenities, how soon do they need to be replaced, and what is that current or future cost. So that's something we've already been working towards, and that should be out fairly soon for all users. We've also been discussing, although haven't started this one, which is looking at the equity and access aspects of parks. One of the things I think we're very good at when it comes to urban forestry and looking broadly across communities is one of our other software products called Tree Plotter Canopy. And that tool allows you to look sort of big picture or landscape scale across a city at tree cover, impervious surface cover, things like that. So we've thought about bringing that concept also into Tree Plotter Parks. There's other products that are out there. Trust for Public Land has an interesting one. So there might be also ways to integrate with some of those organizations as well. But we'd like park managers to be able to step back and look across a city and potentially determine where do they need to create pocket parks or other new parks and provide greater access and equity. So that's one that I'm particularly passionate about, and it's hopefully some direction we can move on the system this year later. We're also working on updating our maintenance scheduling. Right now you can duplicate work and then change dates and things like that, but we really want to make this a little more automated and user-friendly for, let's say, mowing and grounds maintenance. It could be watering schedules for trees over a 12-week or 5-month period, whatever. So that's something that's actively going on now. The last two we already have been doing for quite a while. Integrations, so this I mentioned earlier, using our API or web feature services to have data share between Tree Plotter and other systems. We haven't done that as much with parks as we have with tree data. Fundamentally, though, it's no different. Last one, again, we're already have this in place as an option in Tree Plotter Inventory, which is a notifications system that runs off of inspections as well as work. So it will tell you with a three-color stoplight system, it gives you quick links to basically say, here's your inspections that are overdue or coming up, and here's your work that's overdue or coming up. And we just need to do a few enhancements still for the Tree Plotter Park side for that. So those are just a few of the things that we're looking at and working towards.
Hey, Ian, before you move on, we do have a question from Mary Jane. Do you have a way to add volunteer workers to a park or playground to help offset costs for a city?
That's a terrific question. I'm guessing that's maybe Mary Jane Marlowe from Idaho.
Yes, it is.
All right. Yeah, great question, Mary Jane. The answer is yes, absolutely, and it's a very, very pertinent and timely question. So one of the features, in fact, I can kind of minimize this and go into the live demo. One of the features in the application is the ability to set different roles. So let me go ahead, actually, and just do that now. Okay, so one of the things that you're able to do is we have a default set of roles or login levels, if you will, for the system. And you are able to work with our support team to create custom login levels. So we have a volunteer login level, I believe, that's somewhat templated, but with fairly little work, we can create that so that when they log in, they can either only see certain types of data, or you as the administrator, the overseer, can choose what information they can see. And there's some pretty advanced ways we actually have that. It's not really level 101, I wouldn't say, but it's a little more advanced. But when you come down here under the account, we go into manage accounts, you'll see we have roles and then we have the individual users. This is a really good place to start when exploring the system because it's one of the stronger features, I think. So you'll see there's no volunteer level here, but I was going to talk about this regardless, so I'll just cover it now. You could add a role called volunteer. You could create unlimited people to then use that role, and then you would work with our support team. We'd probably have an additional charge, usually a one-time fee, and we can then choose what they can see and what they can't see. One other really advanced or sophisticated tool that you have is you can apply a filter. So you could search for something and apply that when they log in. So a simple example would be one park, and you could say, essentially in the system, you could say only this park. Set that filter and apply that to your volunteers. And then as the admin, you could change that if you want. Or that's just one example of a way to do it. So maybe a long answer to your question, but yes, there's lots of ways to configure the different roles for what they can see and do. And probably the only take home I really wanted to make here is that at the bottom we have a user for all, for parks, or for trees. And the way that works is if you're in forestry, well, let me start over. If you're the admin for the application in Parks and Rec, let's say, you could then assign somebody in forestry to only be able to edit data for trees. Park asset information would be read-only. Or you could do the opposite, where you have somebody in parks and you don't want them editing anything on the forestry side. You can do that. Or you can choose what says ID number 7 there. It's user all. So that's the user level. You're not an admin, but you are allowed to add data for trees or parks, update, work, maintenance, inspections, and so forth. And there's a few other differences. The admin level is the only one that can modify certain lists, modify your inspections, create new user accounts, things like that. So, Mary Jane, you helped me cover one topic. It's not necessarily the sexiest topic, but it's one thing we wanted to definitely talk about how it works in Tree Plotter. Looks like maybe another question, Elizabeth. Are there any others to cover?
So Mary Jane responded, setting a monetary value to what volunteers accomplish is important.
You could certainly track the hours as one way. So I mentioned earlier that cost interface. So yeah, you can actually have a lookup table where when you click it, it will show volunteers, either their names or just a single category for volunteer. You can have an hourly rate. Let's say you wanted to match the cost from a grant, for example, and you want to calculate and tabulate the hours from those volunteers. That would be a great way to do it. Okay, well, Elizabeth, please just jump in and interrupt me anytime. We're about halfway through our time, and what I wanted to do is a quick demonstration followed by some Q&A. So I would really recommend and ask that any questions you have about the system, about capabilities, or a particular workflow or something like that, we would be happy to answer those. So again, for those of you who are not familiar with the system, I just opened up the hub menu. We've got notifications, the other reporting areas, lots of ways to make great maps, to share maps, to update your data, export things. So a lot of data management tools, and also I guess data sharing tools.
Ian, one more question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this has been discussed, but is there potential to set up community group or public access, for example, for raised beds layers?
We have two clients I can immediately think of that have essentially horticulture groups within the city that are using this for raised beds. This particular application is our demo, so this is open to anybody to come in and explore. You just go to our website and you can access this. But I think City of Fargo, North Dakota, and then just up the street from us, Thornton, Colorado, both have groups that have one used a point and one used a polygon, like you see in the map, to represent their garden bed areas. And then they have custom attributes. They can inspect those. They can assign work. They can assign a schedule to that work, things like that. So it's a good question and a nice segue here, I guess, to the different databases. The way we organize the information as a default, and then again, it's pretty configurable. You have your park boundaries themselves. We have the park amenities, park playgrounds, and then of course trees. So let's see, on the left are the data tables. So that's sort of like your Excel version of all the data. So if you want to come in and open up all the work that's in the system, we can look at the status of the work, the type of task, the priority, what's the due date that's been assigned, and we can search or filter this by the specific layer. So if I said I want to see all the work in the system for playgrounds, I can do that right here. And if I want to see all the work that's been done on the playgrounds, I would just change the drop down here from work records to work history. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but these are the databases behind the data in the map. I think, especially for people who aren't as familiar or are accustomed to GIS, making that connection about where something is and then what the information about it is really what we're trying to make relatively easy here in our software. Let's go ahead and...
I got one more question here.
Sure thing.
What is the basic information that I should enter on the software to manage the parks? Can I use Tree Plotter in Sura America, so South America?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We actually, just on translations, yeah, we do have ways to translate the application into other languages. We've had, I think, something like 250 or 300 words or phrases, as well as the database, which you can update on your own. So we've done Spanish, Thai, Mandarin Chinese, I think Romanian, if I recall. So we've done quite a few languages. What was the other part of the question, Elizabeth, the beginning part?
What is the basic information that I should enter on the software to manage the parks?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's a really good fundamental question. How about we do this? What I'm going to do is look at the park layer, and we'll look at the attributes or the drop-downs that we have, and then we'll go change that to the park amenity layer and then the park playground layer. So you'll notice here, if I click on this park, I can go either into the details about it, I can look at photos, I can look at the work records, I can see any associated work orders or service requests, or I could run a report. So I'll go into details. This is the same way it works if you just have Tree Plotter inventory. If you have Tree Plotter parks, it comes with basically all of that. So these are pretty good defaults to the question that was asked. These are pretty good default data fields. Name of the park, status of the park, maybe size, is it a public park, where is the park located, and then there's just information about who has last updated or edited the information, and then of course the photos. This is a bit more advanced, but this is that level of service score that I was telling you about, where we can look at, is it a high, medium, or low sort of indicator of how good parking is, access to the park, shading, things of that nature. So that's a little bit different from the kind of core traditional attributes that you would, gather about your parks. The rest are inspections and work. So let me just close this and we'll switch over to park amenities. All right, so we have the category and also the type of the amenity. So the category is fields or courtyards, courses, and then the type is soccer field. So if I come in, again, all this data was collected. This is actually an old copy of the city of Davis, California, near Sacramento, where they purchased the system, worked with us to modify the drop-downs and such, and then went out into the field and collected all the data. So I'll show you in just a minute how to add a new amenity to the application. It's very easy. It's a good way to also demonstrate how to create information and then assign work to that. So again, these are defaults. We have, where is the amenity located, what park, what type, accessibility. Looks like this one wasn't entered. So we could say that it has constraints, this soccer field, but in this case, I'll just say it's accessible. Overall condition rating of the amenity, we can say that the field, soccer field, is in good condition. And then there's all kinds of defects and so forth that depending on how you set up the system. And you can have different defects for different types of amenities, of course. You might have comments, photos, and then again, seeing who made changes and when. So those are pretty standard attributes for us in the system, but they can be very, very different. Maybe manufacturing information that you might want to track, who last specifications about that manufacturing, things of that nature. So it really, what we've found is that it runs the gamut in terms of users' needs on what they want to track. So let's see, let's do playgrounds. Just give you one more example. Look over here. Okay, so we go into the details. We have name of the playground, address, again we have condition, and again we have different equipment types, comments, photos, and some dates. So pretty simple, but again, adding to these drop downs is very easy. Well, let's take a look at inspections. I'm going to go ahead and close the data table just to give us a little more space here. We can close the legend. We don't really need that. So we're now looking at one individual playground, and you can see there are no inspections here. I'm going to go ahead and click Add, and we'll do our first inspection on this park. So this is where you would take a paper form that you might have been using in the past, maybe weekly, monthly, whatever, work with us, and then our technical team will help you to build the inspection items as you see here. So we have the details, which is the ID, the photos. Again, these are different. These are photos specific to the inspection, so they're different than maybe the photo you want of the asset itself. So let's go look at the inspections. This is the example I showed you earlier that's not a quantitative. It's not 0 through 5. This is a pass-fail or NA. So we could look at surfacing, and I'm not going to complete everything, obviously. We could say pass, 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 and then maybe say there were an issue with sharp points, edges, and corners of the equipment. So let's go ahead and just say that that fails. Again, this is surfacing. Let's see. Yep, surfacing comments. We have hardware and paint. You see there's lots of different options there. Damage and destruction. So we could say, so maybe it's cracks in the plastic. Again, this is really just a sample template we've set up. There's some vandalism options, things of that nature. And then there's a general section. One of the reasons we did this very, I guess, vertical, where you continue to scroll down, is that working with tablets or phones, you'll have a better experience to be able to simply tap, scroll, and just continue to go, as opposed to putting, scroll up here, as opposed to putting each section as a tab up top. So that's a configuration option that's available to you. Well, why don't I go ahead and I'll just leave a lot of this blank. Let's just say, trying to remember what I said, cracks in plastic. Okay. Cracked edges, replace. Pop us back up top. So I'll go ahead and say close, and you'll see now let me go back in. I forgot to check this one. Maybe we want to create a work order from this. So I'm going to say yes, a work order is required, and let's just say creating work record for replacing broken plastic component of slide. Okay, I think that's pretty much all we need. We see our comments here. I'm not going to add any photos. So we can go and create an actual maintenance task for this. You'll see we have some different categories here. This is a very, very simple example of just maintenance, repair, replace. You can get much fancier with this, as I showed earlier in the slides. So in this case, let's just say we have replacement to do. So let's take a look. We're just going to say, set the status for this. We'll schedule it. We're going to say this is a high priority. Maybe it's a park that's used quite a bit. We don't want to have, we want to finish it by end of this week. And we can go into assign to, and we can assign it to any crew we want. So again, this is just a demonstration sample. So we could then go in, and if we want, we could add this to a work order. We could duplicate this if we thought that it was the type of, maybe it was mowing operation or something like that, and we want to set a schedule for it. There's some other fancy tools. Basically, when you want to create and add this to a work order, one of the nice functions it allows you to do is either create a new one or add it to an existing one. So adding to an existing one is handy because you may do inspections over the court, especially for, I guess if it's high priority work, you would instantly create a work order and send that out. If it was low priority, you might want to add items sort of in a collective way to a work order overall. So I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of this because we're going to run out of time, and I want to make sure I get to show a handful of different things as well. You'll notice here all the history associated with inspections and work is tied to the report, tied to the playground. That's what I meant. And let's just click back on that. We can now go to report. So we don't have a photo for this one, but it does, oh, that's a very nice street view image, it turns out. And we can see the map overview. That's a very, very nice image as well. And if we come down, you'll see that now it's showing us what work is assigned to the tree. So it's not been completed yet. It's not been archived. And we can see some of the information about the inspection. There's also a more detailed report about the inspection as well. I'll just go back to the inspections. Give me 1 second here. So I'll just click this little print or report icon. So this would show us all the details about that inspection, which again, I didn't attach photos. I didn't attach a map or really even complete all of the attributes about the inspection. But just an example of the types of reports. So Elizabeth, I'll pause while I'm going to do a little transition. Were there any questions that came in?
No, we have everything answered up to this point.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do a couple things. I just want to add a new asset.
Just kidding. Just kidding, right when you said that.
That's okay.
Tim Holt asks, is there a way for our citizens and park users to see our progress on projects, park amenities, scheduled maintenance, or suggest future projects for us?
Oh, that last one's definitely a difficult one. Yeah, good question, Tim. The first part of the question, at least, what we've been working with a couple of clients on is we have what we call a landing page. In this case, it's a demo app, so we call it Home. But basically, these panels are an area where this is a module that you can add to Tree Plotter Inventory. The reason I'm mentioning it is that we have a project in our roadmap for what we're calling customer service landing pages. And what that means is that the application would open very much like it looks now, and you would have on the left the landing page, and then on the right the map. The landing page for this future, I guess I didn't add it to that list in the PowerPoint slides, but the idea is that the resident would enter the address of where they're interested, their home or the park. They would be able to see what work has been assigned to whatever that record is. It could be a park, a playground, etc. And they'd also be able to submit a service request. So I guess to the last part of your question, it wouldn't be that big of a leap. It wouldn't be that big of a change. And it's this project that I'm talking about that's in our roadmap for this year is actually utilizing a lot of existing functionality. So, and it's a good segue because one of the things that I wanted to show real quickly is our service request process. So what we want to do, again, to Tim's question, is take a simplified version of this service request form and bring it into that landing page so that when a user comes to the application, they can see welcome to so-and-so city or county. They can learn about their park system. They could also then go to this section to essentially learn more about what's already in the system for that area, that park, that playground, that tree, whatever it might be. And that's all part of our mock-up. And then also to be able to submit a request just like this. So what's important to know is when submitting this request, this form could be available either to the public, to other departments in your city, or to your organization itself. This admin section is only visible to the admins. So only an admin can assign the status of a service request, like I said, put in the status, assign it to someone, set a priority or a due date, that sort of thing. But basically, this is a very streamlined way to say, what is the request related to? Is it a playground? Is it a park, etc.? What is the complaint? And this list corresponds to either trees or park types. And then what are the comments and so forth. So you can get real fancy with the address and things of that nature. You can automatically create a work order as well. And what's nice about that is when you print and email the work order, I'll show you an example in a minute. When you print and email the work order, it will show the corresponding originating service request information in the work order as an option. So that can be really handy to say, you know, we're doing this type of work, whatever it might be, but it came from and originated from a resident or some other group. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, this form's been around for a few years. We're going to take a basic component of this and put it into that landing page feature that I was telling you about. Hopefully that helps. One of the nice things, because we just love maps and we have a very map-centric or GIS-centric application, let me click out to the home button here. You'll notice that everything in the system has a location. So in this case, we just have two, so was that three? No, we are, I don't know, four or five service requests in the system. So we can see the previous ones that have been submitted, what the complaint was, location, whatever information you want here. This ties back to Tim's question. Whatever information you want here is what's visible to the public as well. So I guess I didn't mention that part. I sort of answered the fancier, more sophisticated way, but every tree plotter software application is optional to you about what information you want to show to the public. So they go to the application, they could either have that landing page, or they could simply zoom in or search. They could search by address and go to their location, and they could see the work that's in the system. But again, if you don't want them to see that, you can hide that very easily. So it just kind of gives that, again, another example of how configurable the software is. A lot of our clients really want the public to see more information, and other ones do not want to share as much. Similarly, we can go look at the work orders that are in the system. I think I should at least just maybe print and email a work order real quick. So here we have the location of the work order. I can go into the details, and I can go see the individual work records that are in that work order as well. So let's just go to the details. So we can, well, only an admin can delete a work order. We can do some advanced tools like duplicate a work order. So if you wanted to create a schedule, you would click advanced and come in here and begin the process to duplicate something and schedule that work out. You can set whether the work order is for trees, parks, playgrounds, and so forth. So let's see. This one was set up for mowing, it looks like. It was assigned to a mowing crew. Let's see, what else? We can just quickly go look. So let's add the park. I'm going to add the park name. Give me 1 second. This is sort of a more, let's do that on the left. All right. So schedule. So let's remove, I'm going to remove this one. This is kind of fancier. Let's delete, this is all sample data anyway. Let me just delete that one out. Let's delete this one out as well. So again, certain operations are only available to admins. I'm not going to mess around with it anymore. Let's go ahead and I'm going to print an email. I think the email function is pretty simple. It gives you a few hyperlinks that open the work order or open the work order in the map. So I'll just skip that option right here. In this case, we don't have any service request associated, so I can turn some of those things off. I think I'll just leave the rest. So we'll say submit. What that does, just creates your work order here. These are nice hyperlinks as well. So if you want to go directly to that, and then you get your map. I did not configure the map or tailor it or zoom in or anything like that. So this is the same thing that you get through the email as well. When the work is done, you come over to closeout. You can complete the work, archive it, and that's pretty much the process. So we are, I can't believe how fast the hour went, but we're close to the top of the hour. Elizabeth, were there any other questions or Q&A that's come in?
It's asking, can you include trails in linear parks?
Absolutely. Yep.
Justin Combs.
Hi, Justin. Hello in Hutchinson. Let's see. So, yeah, Justin, we have quite a few clients that have trails. We have one that has fences, if I recall. So a point, a line, or a polygon is the basics of GIS, and that's not a problem at all. And it works the same exact way. You click on the line, it opens up your details, you can track your inspections, your work, the same thing. So it doesn't really matter what the object is in the map. You can do the same process.
I don't see any more coming in.
Well, about the only thing we really didn't do, which is one of the simplest things to do in the system, is add a new record to the database. And I apologize, we didn't do that. But let me go to an amenity, let's just say. So it looks like we've got the ball fields already mapped. I don't know. I'm just going to make something up here for the sake of, let's just say there was a fountain. I'm just going to completely make it up. Or we could even propose that, hey, we need to have a nice statue and a fountain right here. Well, just if you haven't used the system at all, it works the same way for trees. You can add a new record to the map, and you can move one of the locations not correct. So I'm going to click Add. If you have a GPS device, it will talk directly to Tree Plotter, so that's pretty easy. Let's just say we're going to be putting one right in here at the corner of this park. So I'm going to go to the type. Let's just pick drinking fountain. It's very accessible. It's right there off that looks like a bike path if I'm seeing the map. You know, if one thing you might do is add this was a question earlier about what are the basics that you would want to put in. Maybe there's a status. So right now in this database, there's no status. But let's say you wanted to have it as proposed, under construction, or you know, an existing asset. So that might be something you would consider. In this case, you know, we could put in a condition, but there isn't one. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much, you can see it timestamps who added it. I'm logged in as what we call user 1. It puts in the XY coordinates. Very, very simple to add that. A nice kind of function is this one called load last, and it's really good for data entry that's very similar over and over. You can put in the same information will get carried over to the next record. Okay, looks like we have another question maybe.
We've answered all the open questions right now.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I'm not going to show, we've already gone through that, I think, with creating work or adding it to a work order. You could, again, the public could click on this and submit a service request, those types of things. I think really just since we're at the top of the hour, I would encourage you to check out our support page. It has a ton of we really spent a lot of time. If you know Charlie from our support team, he leads a lot of this, and we have ways to get started, learn about modules. There are tons and tons of training videos, different webinars just like this one. There was the question earlier from, I think it was South America, so we do have quite a bit that's also translated into Spanish for our international clients. So this is a great resource. At the bottom left, we also, for any existing Tree Plotter inventory clients, we also have, this is our space for telling you what's new in the system. So what are our new releases? And in fact, that's our next webinar in 3 or 4 weeks from now, is all about what's new in the system. So Elizabeth, that might be a good place to wrap up. Again, we're at the top of the hour, but answer any other questions that people have. We're happy to stay on a few minutes late for anybody.
More coming in. I want to thank you guys all for attending, and make sure and check out our other webinars that are available on planetgeo.com under the webinars tab. And make sure to email me if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything related to this webinar or any other. I also did get a request, so go ahead and email me if you do want me to request post-attendee LA CEUs.
Yeah, great idea. We had Tanya all the way from Slovenia. Wow.
I know, cool.
All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. We're happy to answer any other ones that you might have. We even have LC from our Taiwan partner. It must be very late your time, or very early, I guess, depending on how you look at it. So that's impressive. All right. Well, Elizabeth, I don't see any other questions. I suppose we wrap up, huh?
Yep, I think we're good.
All right. Thanks you so much for your time, everybody. Hope to hear from you and stay in touch. Stay healthy.